David Savage, a.k.a. Diz, and this is The Force Always.
Okay, so welcome to the show. Let's get on with the Star Wars news. New release dates for Star Wars films have been released. It's going to be 2022, 2024, 2026. They're the next set of Star Wars films to be released after Episode 9, which is this year. What they are exactly, we don't know, but we have the dates. 2022, 2024, 2026. More about that later in the show, in the interview section, so stick around for that. To more news, on May the 4th this year, May the 4th, Star Wars finally decided to sort of make it some sort of memorable for the fans itself. Released a whole lot of novels and, coming out very shortly. But what I was most interested in is the huge connections to the Rise of Skywalker. All these pretty much had. Especially the visualization to sort of give you a bit more insight about this film coming up at the end of this year. That's The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. So check that out on StarWars.com. It gives you a little bit of intrigue. Not much, but just a little bit. To more news, there's an ad circulating on the net at the moment. This is a bit of a rumor that it's in a foreign language. Which exact language, I'm unsure. It could be French, I'm just guessing. But in it saying, it's giving it the plural version of Skywalker, which is Skywalker's, Rise of Skywalker, but plural. So if that is real, there could have been a partial spoiler at that point. But it's circulating at the moment. Don't take into it completely yet. Just sort of stick around to see if it is true. To more news, Avengers Endgame has rocked the worldwide box office. $2 billion plus at this stage. In Australia, $9 million. Now, it sounds pretty small, like that would be a bad box office in America, but, well, not bad, but not the greatest. 9 million here in Australia, that's massive. I think it's gone to about 140 in America, and in the second weekend, it's really rocking on. I did see it a second time just to really get the whole sort of thing, and I did enjoy it more, but I still give it 8.5. The actual theatre was still quite busy, and it was a middle of the day session too, so people are really coming back to this film. What a success story this is. It's amazing. Just even the whole way that was navigated from Iron Man to now, it's amazing. There's been ups and downs, don't get me wrong. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been pretty good. If you're a Marvel fan, you're rocking on. And the reason why I bring this up as Star Wars news is it's sort of connected to Star Wars in the form of, good versus bad, things like that. And also it's connected to Disney, Marvels with Disney and stuff like that. And to be honest, this is the type of feeling I want to get with Episode 9 at the end of this year. But more about that later in the show anyway. So that's pretty much the Star Wars news for this time around. I should just add an extra bit. I did give a tribute to Peter Mayhew. I did get a chance to meet him. It was amazing. He was, as what everyone has been saying on the internet, a kind person, really interacted with people, was really interested in. We've lost a great man. The moment that I'll never forget, after he was drinking a bit of water, as I've said this before anyway, but I'll say it again. He was drinking a bit of water at the point, and then he sort of growled at the end. I said, "You are Chewbacca," and he sort of laughed and sort of continued to growl, which I thought was quite funny. And but I'm glad and I'm honoured to have met him in his life, along with my wife anyway. So that's the news anyway. So let's get into views. Views is not the amount of viewage that someone gets on the YouTube videos or anything like that. It's not my predictions. It's just story ideas. Now, this one I'm going to entitle Time Machine. In the Clone Wars, if you know... Clone Wars. If you know Rebels, the animation, Star Wars animation, towards the end they really dove into this porthole sort of thing where you could access parts of time. Again, in a way like a time machine. And as Marvel has chosen with their Avengers Endgame to have a real big part of this film to be a bit of a spoiler here, just to hold on. This is going to be a spoiler, partial spoiler. Tune out if you don't want to hear it. Okay. There's a bit of time sort of travel in the Endgame movie. The only thing that I can see going wrong now is if Star Wars took that on, they are going to be heavily criticized for copying Avengers. Whether they actually did or not, that's besides the case. They will be blamed for copying and pretty much repeating a similar sort of story idea. It does have a great idea, especially in the Star Wars universe, to have time travel. I think it's a little bit late in the game, especially with this, this sequel trilogy as we're calling it. But I think I would choose not to put a time travel idea in the episode 9. I just think flashbacks work. I think that's the new sort of feel of this sequel trilogy. Flashbacks, things like that. But the time travel, the porthole thing, I'd steer away from it. It would really lessen the story, lessen it in a point of not so interesting. It's sort of been done this year. Yeah, that's my story idea. That's not a story idea. It's not actually presenting an idea, but it's actually taking away the possibility. I think it would just be a little bit lifeless now to have time travel sort of, or time portholes, or whatever you want to call it, in the story of Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, so that's views for this time around. Let's get into reviews. Now, this is something that I checked out when I was at Star Wars Celebration Chicago 2019. I did actually get entry to the celebration stage of The Mandalorian, which was fantastic to be at, and I thought, man, thank God I'm in a great panel, because the whole lottery system for Star Wars Celebration Chicago was not a very pleasant thing to go through amongst the normal Americans and international travelers especially. It was just a big letdown idea. But anyway, let's review the whole Mandalorian. The whole panel was actually very good, entertaining. I was really excited for it. I give the whole Mandalorian panel, which includes the footage that was seen. Now, I saw all the footage. There's some spoilers here that again, I'll just give you a moment. Okay, so some footage that you'll may eventually get to see is they presented a scene. They presented a behind-the-scenes type of thing that was actually before, and they presented a trailer, a teaser trailer type of thing. And all of them were as consistent as each other. The only thing is the scene to me was just a little bit, long and stretched, with a more like walking around type of thing. Not a whole lot of, sort of exciting stuff, but there was a lot of sort of a lead-up type sort of a scene. A lead-up scene. He went from the Mandalorian himself, they're calling him the Mandalorian, went from one scene to another, sort of negotiating and things like that, sort of bargaining. And it was good. It had a real mature sort of feel to it. But the points that I was saying in the footage I saw, the standout footage was definitely Salacious Crumb species. You could see him being cooked on a rotisserie type thing, and in cages. And this is obviously the time that after Jabba the Hutt's rule, and all these guys have been, now, in cages and things like that. That was quite a funny little scene. You saw an IG-88 character. Whether it's IG-88, I don't know. if it's the actual model, but you saw him doing a sort of a spin around, or her, him or her, spin around sort of gun shooting thing. It really did bring the audience alive. Even the idea of the main spacecraft, which is called the Razor Crest, it was actually a model, and it was actually filmed in a garage. And this is what Jon Favreau was talking all about at the start of the panel, and during the panel, and he was very excited, very informative, brought a lot to it, to the panel. You could see that he was passionate. I mean, he's got so many things on this year. You know, he's been in Avengers, he's got The Lion King, Mandalorian, he's rocking this year. But he was really excited and really in depth, and I tell you, the footage was really, really good, especially the behind the scenes. It was almost like this is now straight to DVD, bang, here's your package. I mean, it was that good, the behind the scenes. Really well put together. The scene was it was okay, like it was more sort of thriller, sort of long and stretched. The trailer was good. I thought the logo was great. I thought all these little bits were, you know, interesting to see. I think it's going to be good. I gave it 8 out of 10. The whole panel, the trailer, the teaser, the behind the scenes, 8 out of 10. It's probably one a little bit behind the excitement that I had for episode 9, the Rise of Skywalker sort of panel and everything that came out of that. But it's still looking good. It's looking good. It got a good reaction. So there hasn't been anything that's bad. What was interesting about the whole panel, though, is that Jon Favreau forgot to say, don't video what you're about to see. And as that was said after, I think after the first behind the scenes sort of thing, and I can tell you that there was such a security lockdown within the vicinity of the celebration stage, that there was security guards, you know, using electronic sort of monitors, checking the crowd. It was amazing. But I can tell you, I've seen this footage a couple of times. I can't tell you the source, but you may see it soon. That's right. But anyway, that's for another time. But anyway, so 8 out of 10 for the Mandalorian panel, trailer, behind the scenes, and scene that we got at Star Wars Celebration Chicago 2019. That's the reviews for this time around. Let's get into interviews 2Q. That's 2 questions we'll ask myself for you guys out there. Okay, so what do I think of the newly announced Star Wars release dates? I'm pretty much just going to go by year, not the exact date, but they're all December. December of 2022, 2024, 2026. What do I think? Well, I think this is one trilogy. That's what I think. I don't know which trilogy. I think they're going to really play their cards right, because I'm sure they know that the backlash that Rian Johnson has got, and he's got a trilogy waiting to go too. I think they will announce his trilogy, or the guys from Games of Thrones. I keep forgetting their name. It's an unusual but funky name, very funky. So they've announced 3 dates for 3 particular years. I think that's for one trilogy of one of the 2 people in charge, the Game of Thrones people or Rian Johnson. I don't know which one. I'm gonna guess it's the Game of Thrones ones, because I think they'll put Rian Johnson up against Avatar, because the other release date years, 2021 and 23 and 25, at the moment is where Avatar's sitting in December, and I think they'll try and get him to challenge the likes of him, because this Avatar thing is a real phenomenon. It's like, it's not got me excited. I thought the actual Avatar film was good, very good. It was very passionate. You know, it was a classic tale of good versus bad. I just don't know what their form of thinking is with the, you know, setting it so far in advance, you know, many sequels and stuff like that, but, you know, they're up to something. But if it was me playing my cards, I'd put Rian Johnson against James Cameron. That sounds like an easy win for James Cameron, but if the Avatar thing doesn't work, Rian Johnson's movie may well do. Not to say anything bad about Rian Johnson. Personally, I think he's a great director. I think his storytelling is fine. He just left us a little bit empty here and there, but I'm not one of these Rian Johnson haters. Anyway, so that's the answer to the first question. The second question is, what does Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, need to do to come close to Endgame? Well, so far the head start is just not there, which is the intrigue from the last film. As I said just before, it really left us a bit empty and nothing really to look forward to, and what's going to happen to this person, these people. We just thought, what's going on? But what does it need to do? The next trailer really needs to give us something juicy again, like the first teaser trailer. The juicy part was obviously the Emperor Palpatine laughing in a sort of sinister sort of way. I think it needs to up the ante again with something really juicy towards the end, something that we're all intrigued about. Ooh, what's happening there? It doesn't need to give us a big onslaught of action or visual effects. It just really needs to give us something to look forward to. And I tell you, the only thing that Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, needs to do now is to be within a reasonable time length, because if it's too long, like Endgame, I don't think it's going to have a lot of repeat viewage as much as Endgame or even previous Star Wars films. Personally, I'll watch it a number of times. Like, I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan, but I do think if they stuck to a 2-hour 20, 2-hour 30 time period that could get them close to the line, it's going to be very hard to knock off Endgame. It would be an absolute miracle. Miracles can happen. This movie, Star Wars Episode 9, can cross the line at a bigger film this year, but it's a long stretch. Anyway, so that's the answer to my question. What does it have to do? Pretty much keep a good time length and just have something juicy in the next trailer to intrigue us for the actual movie. And then the movie really needs to bring us that intrigue and close the intrigue. Again, not to continue. I don't want to see a to be continued sort of feel towards the end of the film. It's got to bring closure. That's going to really get the satisfaction, I think, from moviegoers and the hardcore fans, just to get that sort of satisfaction. Anyway, so that's my interviews 2Q for this time around. Subscribe to the channel, The Force Always, only on YouTube. Like, share the video to your friends. Repeat it for yourself for some detail. Contact me if you like. Instagram, my details are just down here, or via Twitter, even YouTube itself. Contact me for any questions you may have. And even if you want to go to Patreon/The Force Always, you can support the channel. I'm here on a weekly basis for Star Wars news, views, reviews, and interviews of all sorts. That's it. And until next time, keep rocking.